That's funny. You have like a remarkably fit dad, and you're
Mhm.
still like, "You alive?"
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's just digging a hole for like 3 hours outside, and I'm like over there looking at him, making sure he's upright, and he could outrun me, and there's no way I could. I'm even close to being as physically fit as he is.
Damn, you got it. I mean, you got the genes for it though. You can get yoked.
Yeah, yeah.
You just got to start eating more than ginger.
I know that's my big deal. Is I can't eat much. I can't eat much.
No appetite.
Just a week. Yeah, or I wouldn't say no appetite necessarily, but I don't like to eat I don't like to be full really. Cause I have like, I guess I have what's called OCD of thought. Sometimes I'll have like a thought and then I just can't stop thinking that thought. And sometimes that thought is when I eat, I'm like, oh, I'm going to throw up. So then I just start thinking that a lot. I think it's called a disorder, to be honest, but I don't know. And I'm much better than I always have been. And I feel like I'm the heaviest I've ever been. I weigh 159 pounds right now, which is pretty awesome. So
that's good.
What other thoughts do you have that you can't shake?
I used to think that I was going to kill myself a lot, or never any. Yes. Like I was going to kill myself, or like when I would be driving, I'm like, I'm just going to drive off the road right now. And then I'd be like,
so you mean delete yourself?
Yes, exactly. Delete myself. Yeah.
Everyone on the road has thought like, I've never thought like I should do this. And I've thought like I could change. Bill Burr has a bit about that where he's like just thinking like you could change, you could be on the news. You could like,
yeah, it's so weird.
So why were you like, was something wrong, or it was just a thought that you couldn't shake?
I don't know. I think there's always been something very wrong with me, to be honest. But it's just like a lot of things that I feel like are bad and I shouldn't think about. I think about them a lot. Not as much now, fortunately. And it rarely ever has to do with like killing people.
Yeah. I was
asking,
when I was an accountant, I used to sort of do this like cost benefit of different injuries. Like if I broke a leg.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I'd miss any work at all. But if I broke an arm,
dude,
I bet I get like 6 weeks off. That's how much I hated my job.
Man, I can't remember what I was watching. The guy wants painkillers. Oh, it's House. I remember there's an episode of House where he's trying to hurt himself in such a way that they'll actually prescribe him painkillers at a clinic somewhere. And I think he breaks a bone or something, and they're trying to give him Tylenol. He's losing his fucking mind.
I will say that painkillers. It's one of the reasons I think I don't like kind of subconsciously like to drink or anything like that or do anything kind of crazy because I feel like I would just like go into it balls deep, just get crazy with it.
Did you get this
real good at it?
Like these thoughts as a kid, invasive thoughts?
Yes, I would say so. Yeah, I had I wouldn't say a psychotic break or maybe a nervous breakdown would be a good description. When I was like 15 years old, had a bit of a existential crisis, if you will, and I feel like pretty much since then,
What was the nature of it?
Like, what was the impetus?
I was reading a lot of books, and I just started to get incredibly obsessed with like nihilism and just thinking that stuff didn't matter, and like wondering what motivated people. And I just felt like there was no motivation. And then one day while driving, I had a horrible panic attack, and I didn't know what it was, so I associated it with a lot of different things. So it's like basically from that point on, I couldn't go into a vehicle without having a panic attack or think certain thoughts without immediately going into like a full on panic attack. And then that just like led into me, becoming, because of the physical stress of that, being very depressed and like dissociating for a long time and trying to read books. And then combining that with like negative ideology and negative philosophy just caused a really bad sort of negative.
That's a rough time.
Yeah.
I was also get to the other side.
I don't know, to be honest. I think just like I wasn't like scared really or anything, or I think it's just the whole time I was always trying to better everything that I was doing, and I was like, I just like there's no reason for me to not do the things that I need to do, right? Like there was a time when I first started YouTube where I would play these stupid games. I would literally have to take a cold shower to be able to form thoughts where I could like speak and like direct my energy for an extended period of time without just feeling like, oh God, I'm just panicking all the time. I would take a cold shower specifically so I could think for like a couple hours. So I really don't know how I got out to the other side, but I feel great now. I feel very good and I feel stable and have for a long time. I've been through therapy and all that stuff. And I think really what it comes down to is like feelings. So like feeling like you don't really have control over something. That's like how I always feel, basically. That's like my innate sense. That's my innate feeling that I feel. And I think having like a lack of faith or confidence in myself is like the root of all that stuff. And since I've started to actively have faith in myself and like choose to feel a sense of faith, not necessarily in like a deity or a god or anything like that, but feel like, oh, this will work out. I've never felt like that before. And when I started to actively do that, I think I started to feel better. And like I could actually control my mind a little bit.
When you went to therapy, did you stick with the first therapist you saw, or did you bounce around until you found one that you thought was a perfect fit?
First one.
Is that how you do it again if you were a therapist?
I feel like that guy was really cool because he had a lot of respect. Like I came very prepared. So like I had read a lot of books and already was trying to learn like cognitive behavioral therapy and like all this stuff to help myself. And I was just like, how do I do this stuff? Like I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to be, you know, like you're the guy who is supposed to help me. And he just gave me like a really specific regiment that I could actively follow, and it helped almost instantaneously. So he gave me.
Yeah, what does the regiment look like? I'm not following.
So the regiment, first off, I told him that I wouldn't take drugs because I feel like that would sort of the logic for me there, which I don't think this is a good, healthy thing to feel. But I feel like if I were to take SSRIs or something to help with depression or like anxiety or, you know, uncontrollable thoughts, then I would have lost, which is not a healthy mindset by any means. But it is something that I would have eventually conceded to, but it helped enough to where I never had to worry about that again. So what he prescribed was, or he didn't really prescribe it, but he suggested that I journal very consistently and try to make note of my thoughts more so like whenever I would have any kind of thought, to just write it down so it's real. So I realize things that I'm thinking instead of just like having this crazy avalanche of just shit that's always going on. And mainly to be able to reflect on things. So like whenever I'm doing something positive, having those positive things be able to actually stick out instead of working against myself. That was the main thing. He called it ants, which there's a book about that. It's like automatic negative thoughts. You just, you know, even if your life is 60% good, 40% bad, they're relative or subjective, you're going to focus on the 40% bad. And when you're in a bad spot, you're going to focus on the 40% bad 100% of the time. So, and obviously I knew that, you know, I'm just a fucking regular ass white dude with parents who are awesome. And like, I have all this stuff and like, I'm not like rich or anything like that, but I have no reason to feel this way. So I knew that if I applied this stuff, I could eventually reason, and being able to reason started with being able to control my thoughts by getting them out of my head.
That's
what he prescribed.
I can relate to the success yet not fully happy sometimes. And it sounds like you do what I do sometimes, which is completely invalidate unhappy vibes. It's like, oh man, this fucking sucks. Who are you to complain? You have a heated day, you fuck shit. Like, and now you're not happy. How many people would want to wake up today and not go to work? Your daily fucking day, you asshole. And it just there's a little hint at my inner dialogue.
Yeah, like a perspective shift. And by the way, if someone is in a crisis and they feel bad and they're depressed, it's not a good thing to approach them with. I've learned. It's like, hey, there's fucking people dying and starving everywhere. They're like, oh, I know. It's like, that's not it works really well on me and obviously you, but the perspective shift is a super powerful tool.
Yeah. Sure. And that focus on the negative thing, I used to do that. I'm much better now, but there was a time, say my YouTube comments were 95% positive. Well, I'm deaf to those, right? The 5% that told me what I did wrong.
Sycophants.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your word.
Sycophants.
Sycophants. Yeah, no, you're right. And then the 5% that had something negative to say, those
liars.
Ones that I'm like, they're truth tellers. They're the ones who see me for who I am.
Sycophants, liars. Dude, I always, whenever people shit on me, I always read it and like try to find parts, try to be objective and like find parts that are like valid. Like there's this Reddit, or there's a Reddit called YouTube Drama. And sometimes my content is adjacent to that Reddit and they'll talk shit about me. They hate me. And I'll read it. And I'm like, man, some of this stuff is like very valid. Like this makes sense. I get it. And I'm not going to change, obviously, but like it does, you know, I get it though. Like I completely understand. It's, you know, I don't know. I've got a lot of respect for shitting on myself.
I just happened to
I think it's a good tool.
It is.
I uploaded an unlisted video. It was about a sick fish asking for help. And it made me look at the ratings for last week's episode, which were really bad. And I was like, what happened there? I didn't walk away thinking it was bad. And the comments were just shitting on all of us. We had an interruption problem. I think our guest had a tech issue. So he couldn't tell when we were talking and he kept talking over us. But the comments blamed us entirely. They were like, you keep interrupting your guests. I'm like, what, with the middle of my sentence? Really? That's not how I remember it. And I would like go out of my way to silence myself as soon as he interrupted me. And it was a challenge, but the comments were not kind to us.
And he would take over a conversation and go and go and go and go. And you couldn't interrupt him because he wouldn't hear your interjection for like 4 seconds. So then there'd be the back and forth nonsense. That was all him.
And that's how the comments call it. So I read those and I was like, all right, I need to stop. I think that they're actually incorrect this time, but I don't know. I want to be like, give me a timestamp. Show me the time that I did the interrupting, you know, because I that's not how I remember it, but I can be wrong.
Yeah, it does suck to get criticized and be like, damn, they're not only right, they're entirely right.
Yeah, that happens too. That happens too.
Yeah. Because it's like, you know, there's so much that goes into the way people perceive things, and perception is not reality. So it's like, I don't know. It's really, I don't know. It's very impersonal.
Yeah.
But fuck them. Liars, sycophants.
All the mean comments. Zach, delete all the mean comments on this one.
Anything with a negative connotation. Fuck those people.
Actually, get rid of all of them that aren't overwhelmingly nice.
Yeah, exactly.
There's 7 comments.
Fellatio.
There's 7 comments on the video.
There's 7 comments left. Yeah, they didn't like the show, and I think I thought our guest was a really good storyteller, but the technical difficulty I think was the root of the conversational issues.
Yeah, it was a tech thing for sure.
But
I was speaking of, you were talking about like the neurotic thinking, Caleb, you'd have as a young person, teens. Like I remember being so consumed with fear over like my loved ones dying and going to hell at the age of like 6, 7, 8, like all the way up to like 12, that it would like sleepless nights as like an 11-year-old being like, my grandparents are going to die. And there will be no way for me to know if they're burning for all eternity or if they're not. And I would just walk around day to day and be like, Taylor, did you do your reading homework? And I'm like, you're going to die. And you're going to go to hell. Maybe. What if I
learning about life? Yeah.
I don't want to die and go to hell.
Yeah.
I hope I make it to heaven. Is there a way to know? Yeah, that was so panic inducing for so long. My mom took me to a kid therapist when I was like 11 or 12 for that, and it was so unhelpful because he was like even looking back, like it was a Christian therapist, but like frankly, even like a normal Christian would have been like, you just cut it out, like stop worrying about like going all the time, like that's ridiculous, like it's what a normal person would do. But I remember specifically sitting in that office and he's like, what's the issue? My mom's in there too, and I'm like, I can't stop obsessing over how everyone is going to die around me and either go to hell and burn for all eternity or not. And there's no way for me to know after they die what's going to happen. He was like looking at his paper and he's like, that's a very real fear. And I was,
that's why it's important to worship him every day.
It was stressful. That guy stressed me out for like a whole nother year after that.
Taking you to me, I'd have been like, none of this shit's real, bro. They're gonna get eaten by worms, and that's the end of their existence.
That wouldn't have helped.
I'm here to help.
No, it's so easy to fix that when you say, "Hey, son, what did they tell you about God? That he's all good, right? And he sees everything, and he knows everything." Now, let me ask you so: is your grandmother a good person? Yeah. Well,
the best.
She's got nothing to worry about then, does she? Because he sees all that. if you think that you see how good she is, just imagine how much he loves her.
See, you would have helped me
1,000 times more than
Should
you.
be a
He loves
pediatric
us
Christian
all.
therapist.
Not the
Yeah.
worm thing.
And then when I was
No, not the worm thing.
Not
He's
the
11,
worm
Woody.
thing.
He's
The worm
11.
thing
He
is
can't
terrible.
handle the truth yet.
that would be all. Yeah, they put me on SSRIs for like a 6-7 month period.
When you were a
Do you remember
child?
what it was called?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I think
Oh
it
my
made me
God.
into a weirdo. Like because your
That's
brain's
what did it.
developing. You should. That's what it is. It wasn't me. It wasn't intrinsic.
Mhm.
And they put me on it, and it was during 5th grade. How old are you in 5th grade? 11?
Yeah.
Like around there. So like I was on it for like most of that 5th grade school year. I have no memories. I have no distinct memories of 5th grade. Like
That's awesome.
Kindergarten
year.
through 4th grade, 6th grade through 12th grade. I can think if I
Lot
just
of
think for a
hazing.
second, like what's a 3rd grade memory? I can like close my eyes, think, I can picture what seat I was at, like where my teacher was, like something that happened with a friend. But 5th grade, it's blank. It was awful.
I would love to lose 5th grade. That was the year they bullied me for fixing my hair, walking pigeon-toed, and blinking too much.
Yeah.
That was a terrible year.
You know what I do remember
Damn.
from 5th grade? 9/11.
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck.
That was my
No wonder they put you on
high wattage year.
SSRIs.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
9th grade for me. It was a sad day though. It was a sad day. Yeah, really. Everybody was bummed out. We didn't leave school either. We just had to sit through it.
I mean, it happened so early in the Midwest that like it was basically an off day. Like get to school, 30 minutes of time, 9/11, go home.
I think
George
we
Bush
knew
comes in.
first.
Yeah, George Bush came in.
We
He
were
was reading the
listening.
class.
We were listening to the radio in driver's ed. When it got broadcast, whenever they cut into the 70s music or whatever we were listening to.